on Zoom and we are going live. And we're live on YouTube, and we'll just give it a minute or so to let the audience populate.
Okay, well, welcome as everyone joins the meeting. We'll get started here in a few seconds, and we apologize for being a few minutes late this evening. All right, well, we are going to reconvene to open session, and before we launch into our meeting, I would like to hand it over to Mariana to give an announcement to our Spanish speakers this evening.
Hola, buenas noches a todos los que desean escuchar esta junta, esta reunión en español. Por favor, les pido que hagan clic en la burbuja de abajo que va a decir español o en inglés si es el idioma de preferencia. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Gracias. All right, we will start our meeting this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. And as we've stated before, if you have a flag, please feel free to look at your flag. And if not, just look to the right of your screen. With that, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A lot of pressure.
I've done it too. It's okay.
I know.
Yeah.
And especially today. But
especially today.
All right. So now I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeannie. Any changes to the agenda? All right. With that, I will go ahead for our roll call vote. Jeannie.
Aye.
Virginia Fernandez, sorry. Angie Lewis.
Aye.
Julie.
Aye.
Jeannie Broom. Oh, Kelly Noe. Aye. Jeannie Broom. And Satori isn't able to verbally, so she'll just put it in our chat, but we know we'll collect her votes that way. This evening, Satori's microphone is not working, so she won't be able to verbally communicate with us, but she will be putting comments into the chat function on our end. All right, now we move on to our input from the public regarding items not on the open session agenda. Do we have anyone who is interested in making a comment on?
Yes, we have a couple.
It looks like we have Debbie Ramirez and Carmen. Is the board okay with giving each of them? Oh, and Adam. So we have 3 speakers. Oh, 4. Now we have a Richard that's popping up. How many is the board comfortable giving each of them their 3 minutes? Okay, so do you want to go ahead and bring them into the room, Jenny? Thank you.
Debbie, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. Superintendent Beal asked me to give a brief update tonight on the status of the 2 campaigns in favor of measures A and B on the upcoming March 2nd ballot. I'm serving as the campaign chair for the Yes on Measure A parcel tax campaign, and I'm also a committee member on the Measure B West County TOT area campaign. We have been busy. Briefly, Measure A, the parcel tax, has been placed on the ballot by this school district, and all of the funds would benefit the school district. Measure B, the West County TOT area ordinance, was placed on the ballot by the county and would create a new tourist tax district, which includes the area of the West Sonoma County High School District, plus Bodega Bay. Half of the funds raised would support emergency paramedic and ambulance services in our area, and half would support education in West County, with the first several years being earmarked for the West Sonoma County High School District and any other districts exploring unification. Both campaigns have websites now with more information, and they can be found at yesonainfo.com and taxtouristsfairly.org. The county is mailing out voter information guides beginning tomorrow, which will contain the language of both measures, as well as the campaign statements. Both campaigns have been endorsed by the Sonoma County Democratic Party. And last night, the Sebastopol City Council voted to write a letter in support of Measure B, the TOT. We're fortunate to have a volunteer graphic designer, district alumna Marissa Elder, creating graphics for both campaigns. We're working on getting our materials translated into Spanish. Both campaigns are also live on social media, which you can find through their websites. Both campaigns are actively raising funds so that we can pay for voter outreach materials such as signage, mailers, and other public information activities. Both campaigns have volunteer sign-up forms on the website. And finally, there are volunteer opportunities coming up as soon as this weekend for phone banking for Measure B, and in the near future also for Measure A. And we'll need help putting up signs soon. Thank you for your time this evening.
Great, thanks Debbie for the great update.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we have Carmen. Can you bring Carmen into the room, Jenny?
Yeah, so it'll be Carmen, then Adam, then Richard. I'm bringing you all into the room right now, but Carmen, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, and thank you.
Thank you. I'm Carmen Sinajani. I'm talking on my behalf individually and not on behalf of any of the organizations that I'm a part of. I wanted to bring to the board's attention, in reviewing the board packet for tonight's meeting last night, first I heard of it, I discovered that a local group of Elmo supporters had written a demand letter to the district alleging that the at-large elections are racially polarizing and that certain populations are unfairly represented in our district. I'm puzzled though, because this is the same group that is behind Measure A. And so I'm confused about what the goal here is. They want us to redraw the district lines and possibly add 2 more Board of Trustee members. But why are they going through that effort and making these very harsh allegations, but at the same time trying to pass Measure A? The goal of the group, as I understood it, was to buy time to leave the district and to form their own West County district. But even that's confusing because having attended all these meetings, I thought the goal was to buy more time for a more measured and meaningful consolidation process. So I'm left with being, well, frankly confused. What's the goal here? The problem is, apparently just an hour and a half ago or so, the letter is being withdrawn. That's what I understand. But you can't unring that bell. Again, as I understand it, the district's now forced to spend $75,000 on a study because of these allegations. That's 5 whole sections. We just lost 5 sections because of a group of parents that wanted to make very serious allegations. I'm at a loss. I don't even know what to do here. We're in a financial crisis. We're in a health crisis. We're all trying to deal with what's best for this district, and then these things keep happening. I just wanted to raise it to everybody's attention that it's a huge loss for our district, this expense, and I'm upset, and I wish it hadn't happened. I do hope somehow we can still try to do what's best for this district. I fear now the options are limited. We have these expenses. So anyway, thank you for your time. I'm sorry, you can tell I'm really upset about this, and I do appreciate you listening.
Thank you, Carmen.
All right, Adam, you can go ahead and unmute your mic.
Good evening. With regards to where we're at today, it's interesting that we had an update on the Measure A and B campaigns. I won't speak to the Measure B campaign because I don't have an opinion on where that sits. But this letter that was written all but kills the Measure A campaign. We can talk about phone banking and volunteers and all that stuff and whatnot, but this will be one more situation where those in the community that have an axe to grind with parcel taxes and taxes in general now have an opportunity to come out and say that not only are they the same group that is putting out the Measure A and telling us how great it is and how we're going to bridge this gap and everything, and they're suing the district at the same time, because that's what the letter says. Does not matter. My wife calls them toothpaste words. You can't put them back in the tube. We are going to spend that money whether we like it or not. So I appreciate the desire to resend the letter, but it's a fairly meaningless gesture at this point. I wish they have a lawyer on the letter. A lawyer signed that letter. So I have no idea how this got past them with all the legalese that's in that letter, all the statutes that are stated in that letter, and yet they're claiming they had no idea that this could do this kind of damage. So if we can please assume that the parcel tax is dead and move on. I am begging this board of trustees to start the process of consolidation now. There is zero reason to wait anymore. There is no, other than some one-time money from the state, there is no magic bullet coming to save us. All we are doing is pushing this off on the kids and making it harder. I want everybody to listen. This is a quote from one of my good friends. If you think about it, half of the students that are going to attend school next year, assuming that we get back into the classrooms in the fall of next year, half of those students will never have set foot on their campus as a student. All the freshmen and all the sophomores, think about that, will never have been on campus as a student. We are not worried about what culture Elmo has, what culture Annalee has, how they're going to mesh. This is all going to be brand new. This is the time to consolidate. These kids are going to come together. They're going to form their own culture as a new entity. And that is the best we can do for them. But instead, we've got parents and alumni fighting over what their fantasy of what their school was all these years ago that no longer exists. This is not about the kids of tomorrow. This is about their kids of today and yesterday and 25 years ago. Let's get past this. Let's build a consolidation coalition and start to talk about what this looks like going forward for the benefit of next year's kids. We can't do anything for this year's kids, and I've got a senior. Okay, but we can make sure that next year's kids have a fighting chance to come into something great. Thanks for your time.
Adam, who's next? Jenny, was that the last person?
No, we got Richard, and then I've also got Eleanor Gorman and Jesseline Mills. Richard, you have the floor.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to just comment on a agenda item that I see missing from the agenda. And that is the removal of the suspension placed by this board on the physical conditioning and skill building practices for our sports teams. Those practices are absolutely and definitively allowed for by our state shelter-in-place guidelines. They're allowed for by all county guidelines, and they're supported by CIF. We should remind ourselves of all of the studies that have been done to show the benefit of participation in high school sports on things like academic performance, engagement, involvement in the local community, and future success when compared to their peer non-student athletes. I think there is an opportunity to get these kids out there, get them participating in these physical conditioning activities, get them ready to go, clear their minds from sitting in front of Zoom meetings all day. When you look at the safety protocols that are put in place that go along with these activities, the incremental risk is very low and is overshadowed, if you will, by the benefits that I outlined earlier. So I just wanted to comment on the fact that, there's a lot of things that COVID has brought to us that are beyond our control. This absolutely is not one of them. It's absolutely within our control to provide such opportunities to get out and get some exercise, participate in these activities, and we should take that opportunity to control the things we can. That's it. Thanks for your time.
Richard, before you leave, could you give us your last name for the record?
Sure, Thomas.
Thank you.
Yep.
And hold on, let me lower hands here.
When I see people are adding themselves, I see Jim just added. I know we have been like taking the list at the front and then cutting off speakers at that point, which was technically at Richard. I'm fine with taking Eleanor and Jesselie. I don't know how the board wants to handle the additional speakers that have come in. Or we can
Let's just end it at Jim. He's the last hand there, and say no more.
Okay.
My opinion.
Is that good with everyone else?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Eleanor, Jesselie, and Jim, I'm bringing you all into the room. Eleanor, you have the floor, though.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I want to respond to the speakers earlier from Annalie. I understand there's a perception, which is actually a misperception, that that a letter that was sent to the board from a group of parents, representing those who have Elmo children or who've had Elmo children in the past. I'm going to say this. I am someone who signed that letter. I have already donated to the Parcel Tax campaign. I am brainstorming with my daughter on how to raise more money and bring PR attention, good PR attention, to work with Elmo and Annalie students together to raise attention to help pass the parcel tax and the TOT tax. And several of us parents have also come to understand that there have been some lawsuits against districts in California about this issue of representation, and we think it might be relevant to Elmo. And what we did, we may have someone on, there may be a parent who has a law degree. We have no one who's a specialist in education law. There is no one who advised us to send this letter. We did our own research as parents and citizens trying to get through all this. A lot of issues that we've looked into because these are our kids. And we found out that this has been going on in California. It might be relevant to us. And we feel like it's an actually perfectly relevant issue for Elmo parents. But there is no intention, to bring any kind of lawsuit. We had no understanding that it would require the district to put any money towards anything. We wanted to start the conversation, and we thought we were being professional by having all the information that was found online and research. And so that is the honest truth of exactly what happened. All of us have been working very hard to get these measures passed. We've already put time into it. As Debbie Ramirez said before, we're very eager for it. We believe it's the right way to go. And we believe there's another matter that needs to be looked into, but we did not realize that we were not intending to bring any kind of lawsuit to have any kind of impact on this current process. We would in fact like the district to avoid that, but look into what's currently happening in California with representation in school districts. We think that's a valid concern. We are a progressive community, aren't we? We think that's a valid concern. But again, there was no intention to interrupt anything or bring any lawsuit against the district at all. That does not suit our purposes. That is not our intention. So I apologize if that's how that came off, but that was not the intention. So that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jesselie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jesselie Mills. I too am one of the individual parents who signed this letter asking the board to look into this issue. I think it's important, and I stand by my decision, that the board does look into this, because districts across the state are proactively taking this approach and reorganizing their board to avoid civil rights litigation. With certain movements that are forthcoming of schools, I think that there is a potential to violate students' civil rights, and I'm worried that this district is subjecting themselves to litigation. maybe the timing was maybe it was poor timing to do this now, but this is something that needs to be looked into prior to the 2022 election. And the sooner we get started on this, the more information we have in front of us, the better off we are. This letter in no way signals that there's any lawsuit pending. There was no attorney. We didn't have an education attorney or an election attorney guiding us on what to do. So I'm not sure what the references to that, but we're just trying to look out for the district and do the right thing. And I'm sorry that people are seeing this as a litigation threat or that we have filed a lawsuit, but there's no lawsuit. There's no lawsuit. Just because this process opens the door to litigation doesn't mean we're seeking litigation. This is the only way that we thought we could go about getting this information. The only other way would be to do a petition behind the district's back, and that's not appropriate because we're trying to be transparent. We want the district to be involved. We want their input. We want the public's input. So if you people from Annalee are going to take this and twist it into a lawsuit, you're right, it is going to have an impact on the elections. But if you take this information and use it to our benefit to say, hey, we're a very progressive school district. Look, in fact, we're all on board with looking into this reorganization of the board so that everybody in the community, all the students are properly represented. I think we could have a very, very positive impact. But if you turn it to we're going to sue, of course it's going to fail. So I think it's incumbent on those of you who see this as a lawsuit to take a step back and take another look at it. Look at the different code sections that are relevant to this issue. Just Google school boards reorganizing, and you will see all of these different schools who are doing it on their own motion. I think we can use this to our favor, and I hope that you guys do, and I hope you continue to work with us. And please don't bash us and say that we're suing the school. We're trying to do the best for the school. So I hope you can see that. And, you know, it's on you if you don't. And if you want to use it against us, then that's on you, but it's not on us. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I think we have Jim as the last speaker.
And Jim, you can unmute yourself.
I think I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Okay, folks. First of all, I want to make it clear, I'm not responding to anybody's comments tonight or to any letter because I'm not aware of this letter, not been involved with it. So anything I say tonight is strictly related to how I see things as they progress. When we started back in October with this process, there was a discussion going on about how the district should reorganize or change the way it was operating. There were discussions about different ways of doing that, but the complaint was there was no time left to solve this issue because SCO was putting pressure on our finances and saying we had to do things in a hurry. At that time, I suggested that what we needed to do was run a short-term per parcel tax as bridge funding, and the objective was that the board would work with the community together and come up with a solution that made at least everybody feel like they'd been involved in the process. So that's where we started out with this parcel tax. At this point, to my knowledge, the board has not made that clear. There's not been any statement from the board to that effect. This is the purpose of the parcel tax, or it was when we started out, to provide 3 years for the board to discuss with the various people involved, the various stakeholders, where we're going with this, what's happening with the district, how are we going to consolidate, how are we going to move facilities or move to different facilities. All of that was up in the air, but we couldn't do anything because SCO was putting pressure on us. Okay, so we set out on this process to create a parcel tax and try and raise money that would allow us to get through the next 3 years so that the district could discuss with all the various stakeholders how we were going to proceed. Now, that's not going to say that everybody's going to be happy, but what I am getting a little concerned about is everybody's trying to find a solution right now before we got a parcel tax. And I think that's inappropriate. And in fact, I'd like the board to come up with some clear statement that says the reason we're doing this parcel tax is to try and provide that kind of input from the public. Now, when we started out, the Taxpayers Association said what we were doing was kicking the can down the road. Frankly, if we don't have that statement from the board to say that you're going to work with the public and with all the other stakeholders to try and find a good solution that is a good compromise where everybody's had their voice, then in fact we are just kicking the can down the road. And I think you need as a board to come up with a statement that says this 3-year period is going to be used to talk to people.
Jim,
And
your
that the
time is
people-
up.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. Well, that's my position anyway. Thanks for hearing me.
Okay, thank you, Jim. So now we're going to move on to approval of our consent calendar. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Angie. And any questions or concerns about anything on consent? All right, hearing none, we will go ahead with our roll call vote. Jeannie Fernandez.
Aye.
Jolie.
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
Kelly. Aye. Jeannie Broom.
Aye.
And Satori, I think you have your microphones working now.
Yeah, it is. Aye.
All right, welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, now we will move on to actions on items heard in closed session. Angie, do you want to report out on closed session?
Yeah, there was no action taken in closed session.
Great, thank you very much. All right, now we will move on to our reports. First, we will start with our student board representatives. Jeannie, you're at the top of my screen, so do you mind going first?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so it's good to be back. I hope everyone had a nice winter break. Yeah, so just a few updates on what's been going on at Elmo. Some recent events. We hosted a virtual trivia night. The sophomore class organized it and put it on. It had a few Kahoots about various subjects. And our next trivia night will be hosted by our very enthusiastic freshman class officers. I've had the chance to Zoom with them a couple of times in the past week, and they're super excited to get down to work and try to create a fun game night for everyone at Elmo. We also had a winter break spirit week and a winter break spirit rally, which was sent out to all the students, created by our rally commissioners. Upcoming events at Elmo, there is a student council meeting this Friday where the student council representatives will give feedback on a potential virtual homecoming and a drive-in movie night that, date TBD whenever the county or the region is out from under the stay-at-home order. We also have an Easing into Elmo meeting next week. We have Club Day next Wednesday. And this week we have a virtual dance show that will be showing on the 22nd and the 23rd at 7 p.m. There are optional donations available. So it'd be really great if you could come out and support the dance program. I will be in a few pieces. So, and other things that have been going on with me currently. I had the opportunity to speak to the Forest Hill Chamber of Commerce with Steve Griffith and Galen Sword on behalf of Measure A. So that was a good conversation. And I am considering working with the class officers, off of school email and everything, of course, on a social media presence for student education on the tax measures that will be going on the ballot.
Thank you. Satori.
Jeannie, can you tell us the dates again for the show?
Yeah, they are Friday and Saturday, and I believe it is at 7 p.m. I can also send everyone on the board a little link, which also has a place to donate.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
That would be great. Thank you. And Satori?
Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everyone. As Jeannie said, I hope you had a great break. I certainly did. It's nice to be off of Zoom for a while. For my board report, in terms of leadership, they are hosting a prize pickup drive-through for freshmen for the canned food drive that happened last year, which is funny to say, about a few months ago, which is nice. Breakfast and lunch meal pickup is still happening on Tuesdays from 11:30 to 1:30. Second semester parent kickoff webinar happened on January 7th, discussing schedules, grades, grad requirements, Google Classroom, ARIES, athletics, FFA, academic and emotional support, and college and career center updates. Annalee Theater are doing a production of Clue, which is exciting. Trying to find places to do that. Annalee Yearbook is working hard to get photos for the upcoming yearbook, which is presumed a struggle because of COVID, and it's hard to get photos, people. And lastly, SRJC had a super Saturday for students to get info on the JC. Yes.
All right, thank you. So now we'll go on to association reports.
And I know Brian wanted to make a report. Brian, can you raise your hand? There you are. Wait, I just lost you again. There you are. What's going on with my computer? And you should be promoted to a panelist now, so you should be able to turn on your camera. There you are.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully you're all having a nice evening. My name is Brian Miller. I'm the chair of the bargaining team. And as we are returning to the bargaining table, as well as the various other things that we're working on right now. And I just wanted to talk briefly about that. So first of all, there's good news on the state budget front. We're a long way from the dire projections of last March when districts were preparing for a 10% funding cut. Not only are we not seeing budget cuts next year, we are seeing record funding. Newsom recently announced a proposed all-time high of $85.8 billion in Prop 98 funding, which is $14.9 billion over the previous year's budget projections. School Services of California, which is the consultant and training organization of school districts, wrote that Newsom's budget, quote, offers us a collective sigh of relief, if not feelings of jubilation. The district will be receiving cost of living adjustments from the state. The 2021-22 COLA is 3.84%, which includes 2.31% that didn't get funded last year. FICMAT projects COLA in the future years to be 2.98 in 22-23 and 3.05 in 23-24. It's worth noting that in addition to the governor's all-time high state budget, school districts will also receive historic levels of federal funding, including from the CARES Act and the new COVID-19 federal stimulus package. Yet the realities of this strong budget outlook moving forward are not reflected in the offers the district has brought to the table thus far. We are aware that a district bargaining team must work within the constraints defined by the school board, much like a union bargaining team has to work within the constraints defined by our members. So with that in mind, we would like to request that the trustees provide the district bargaining team with the directive and agency to make a legitimate offer and allow us to settle a fair contract before the adoption of the next budget, as is legally required by the EERA. Thank you.
Do we have someone from CSCA?
I don't see anyone's hand raised.
Okay. And move on for now, and we will go to principal reports. What works best, Jenny? Do you bring them into the room first?
I can do either or. So Allie's the first. Principals, if you could raise your hands.
Okay. Yeah, if you all can raise your hands, then Jenny can bring you in. And Allie, if you want to just go ahead and get started.
And Allie, I promoted you to a panelist, so you can actually come on screen. There you go.
Thank you for letting me in, and welcome back. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some things we have going on at Laguna. So we decided that we wanted to take this opportunity, actually started last quarter, to honor more of our students every quarter. So we came up with what we are calling the Redwood Resilience Award. And so we awarded 9 of our students with the Redwood Resilience Award. And I wanted to talk about that because for those of you guys who have been on Laguna's campus, the very center of our campus is this big, huge, giant redwood. And what we learned over the course of our summer program together was that redwoods are tall and strong and very resilient, but yet if they don't have an interconnected root system with other redwoods, that it weakens them and they fall down. So I'm really proud of that. And I'm really proud of the 9 kids who have shown resilience throughout all of this. I also wanted to check in a little bit about our cohorts. So we did try the traditional cohort model, or I guess traditional in what we are in this weird world we live in. And we did try to bring back small groups of kids. What we found was that was not a successful model for us. So what we did is we shifted things a little bit, and we have had our outreach therapist, Chris Van Stone, who's been phenomenal. And she's been meeting with about 10 to 15 of our most disconnected kids throughout all of this. And she meets with them in person. She has an office out in Guerneville, so she can meet with kids out in Guerneville, and she comes into the office a couple days a week. And I cannot thank Chris enough, because I think Chris has kept so many kids who we would have lost otherwise connected in the community and graduating. And at this point, we have just about every single kid. We have a few kids, outliers, who we've been trying to track down, but pretty much every single one of our seniors right now is on a track to graduate. And I really thank Chris and Bobby and our entire staff for that. I think it's been some phenomenal work that we've done there. Besides that, only other thing, we had our grocery pickup today, and it was our biggest one yet. And we served probably about 50 families, and about 40 of them came from Laguna or Annalee. We even actually had about 3 or 4 El Molino families, which was awesome that we have kids and families coming out from there. And we actually got a compliment from the Redwood Empire Food Bank. A family called in to them and said that they never before for a food pickup had felt seen and heard and visible as a person who needed help. So I just really wanted to honor and thank all of the people who come out and help us at food grocery pickup. And I know many of you guys have, so I really appreciate that. So thank you. That's mine.
And Matt and Shauna are both in the room. They can turn their cameras on.
Do you want, Matt, do you want to go ahead and go first?
Sounds good. Good evening, everyone. I want to start off by just sort of echoing what Jeannie said about this weekend. This is sort of a spectacular event in that it's actually going to be the first performances from our Performing Arts Center. So not only is it a chance to watch some amazing El Molino dancers, but it's also an opportunity to get to see the Performing Arts Center being utilized by our students. So I do hope you take advantage of that this weekend. I believe both Friday and Saturday night will be a little bit different. So it's not just going to be the same show each night. There'll be a little tweaks in there according to Ms. Johnson. So it might behoove you to be there Friday and Saturday night. You don't even have to leave your couch. Not only is Jolene worked hard with the dance company, but they're also working with Advanced Dance to put on some community classes beginning in March. So those classes will be targeting K through adult. And if you're just looking for a good laugh, you should show up because I'll be there. And in the past, I have definitely made many people smile with my dancing attempts. We'll say it like that. Big thanks to the El Molino boosters, Darlene Packard, Gina Macias, for providing over 40 families with holiday meals. It was a wonderful opportunity to see our students and their families and have the opportunity to wish them a wonderful holiday season. Students have been busy picking up their electronics kits for Project Make. Mary Beth Smith received a grant from the CTE Foundation that afforded students the opportunities to have these kits and to work on the electronics and actually start doing some more hands-on work within Project Make. So great job to Mary Beth for securing the grant. And also then this week they'll be attending a sort of a virtual workshop with Manzana Productions, where they'll go through the whole production process and learn about careers in that regard. So we're excited to have that opportunity. Chef May, as always, is busy. I'm hoping that she'll put on a community cooking event because that would be even more spectacular. Maybe working with Jolene. Oh, that's what she's doing here. But we could, eat some food and go dance and work it off. So that'd be great. But Chef May actually is working with Jolene in Ethnic Studies by producing a Chinese pool noodle demonstration. So as part of the Ethnic Studies class, she's going to go in and talk about the culture as well as provide a cooking demonstration. She's also working then with John Ash to produce some other cooking demonstrations for students in the community. So maybe you'll have an opportunity to cook with John Ash and Chef May. But Chef May is not done there. She's working with Leah Woody, our college and career coordinator, to create a virtual event and a series around hospitality, wine, and tourism. So Chef May is a busy and in-demand, wonderful, wonderful individual. Lee has also been working to help our seniors. Typically, we bring back alumni to talk about their experiences after high school, but she's been putting together videos of alumni to then share with our seniors about their experience outside of high school, whether it's at university, trade schools, whatever it may be. But she's busy putting those videos together to share with our seniors. Big weeks coming up on all of our campus. We've got our counselors have been working extremely hard. I know our counselors have. I know Shauna's counselors have, and Aaron and Danny have been really working extremely hard to put together the scheduling process, which is basically coming up with students choosing 4 different schedules, looking at what the future may or may not hold. So kudos to all of our counselors and Aaron and Danny for their great work, because this is a massive undertaking. So thank you indeed. Marilu and Shannon have also been working with Rosanna and Jessica Hiles, our outreach therapists. They've been going and talking to the classes, reintroducing themselves, and informing them where this, how to get services, what they need to do. And then Jessica and Rosanna are also going to be providing a series on Wednesdays for students where they can make peer connections, learn about study skills, time management, and just have a general ear for them, for our students to sort of, share their feelings and emotions. We know that mental health is so important during this time, and we're appreciative of those efforts. So much so that even Michelle Larkin, our AP Spanish teacher, has students reading articles and watching videos in Spanish around the importance of mental health and mental well-being. So she's really sort of cross-discipline there. So great job with that, Michelle. John Greck, who is one of our social science teachers, is going to be hosting and moderating a Zoom forum on January 28th at 5 p.m. with Daniel Ziblatt. He's a Harvard history professor who grew up in Forestville and was a co-author of How Democracy Dies. So check the El Molino website if you'd like to be a part of that forum. I think this is a great example of intra-district collaboration. Megan Gilmore and Tricia Maxon have been working together around the book Between the World and Me, where they've actually had joint class sessions. They've shared peer editing amongst the different classes, and they're actually going to then be providing their responses from class discussions on Flipgrid. So a wonderful example of collaboration within the district with Megan and Tricia. So just wanted to share that. I think that's pretty awesome. Rachel Lassick, Leslie Grassel, Margaret Peterson, been busy looking at math data from last semester and looking at how they can adjust as necessary for this semester. And so far, although we're only 3 weeks in, things are going swimmingly. In the special education with Lana, Brooke, Jessica, Rochelle, and Stacy, their big feedback has really been just student positivity coming in. One of the comments was even from Stacy Fortin about one of the seniors and the senior project and how much that individual is looking forward to challenging and pushing themselves this semester and going outside of their comfort zone. So really excited about that feedback. And Lana's been spending a lot of time working on positivity as well with her students and even doing a mashup with Ariana Grande and The Sound of Music. So lots happening. Very excited to start off, this second semester. It's a new day. It's a new dawn. And I think we're all feeling a lot better. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Shauna.
Good evening, everybody. And I will start with an echo of what Matt just said. It is a new day. It's a new dawn. And it's really good to see everybody. Happy New Year and happy second semester. I'll start off. I have fewer things this time, so I'll probably be a little bit closer to the time limit, but we'll see. Last week, we hosted our second semester kickoff, as Satori mentioned. We included information regarding navigating ARIES and Google Classroom. What we thought would be helpful would be, now that our families have had a whole semester under their belts of working with ARIES and understanding Google Classroom, to actually kind of have a refresher, which is what we did. Along with that information, we also had one of our outreach therapists discuss all kinds of things about stress during COVID and about staying balanced, and what can families do for students to feel balanced so their lives aren't just constant Zoom and schoolwork and things like that. So I thought he had some really good points out there. We are going to be planning in fact, we're already planning our next parent night, which will focus entirely on mental health of adolescents. Not entirely around the COVID aspects, but some of just also the more typical things around adolescence, as far as anxiety and stress, depression, things that can be seen with or without these COVID restrictions. And so we'll be having a night where our outreach therapists discuss what can be done at the home level, not so much always, sending kids, to therapy, but what can families do for themselves? And I thought that would be a really great idea, and I'm excited for that night. We haven't chosen a date yet, but when we do, you will of course be invited. We have our AP Parent Night coming up. That will be on the 27th of January. That's where we showcase all of our AP classes, and we try to encourage all of our students to step up and take the challenge. So all of our teachers will be presenting information about their courses on the 27th. On February 1st, we are hosting our freshman orientation night. Of course, that will be on Zoom, just like our AP night, just like everything else. We are busy planning all the course offerings, and just like what Matt said, the amount of work that the counselors are doing, along with Erin Elliott and Danny from El Molino, it's just really a tremendous amount of work. And when I hear how everybody's kind of working together and really kind of revamping how we do this, it's impressive. So I really give it up to the people who are kind of on the front lines of all of this, because it's a lot to do, and they're doing an amazing job. Right now, our our families and students and staff are taking part in the Youth Truth Survey. For Annalee, we have been doing this survey since the spring of 2018. So I feel as though we're doing this survey enough to really gather data. When you first do it, you never know how things are going to land. And then the second time, but now we're really going to be able to see some trends. So I'm excited to see that data once we have that. We are starting off our second semester great when it comes to attendance. We actually have, and I want to read it again. Yep, it's a 99.17% attendance. So the first 2.5 weeks of the second semester, we're on it. And I think that's just a great way to start. Our athletic directors in the county have been working hard and really trying to stay up on all of the different CIF guidelines that are being discussed, and the updated state regulations will allow us possibly to start some sports while we're still in the purple tier, and that would be cross country and tennis, golf, track, and swimming. We would need to actually split these into 2 different start dates due to conflicts with facilities, and also the fact that some of our coaches coach the boys and the girls. So we would need to do some separation there. And we are also beginning to develop schedules for baseball and softball. Our college and career coordinator is putting together a network of alumni that will be used for our students when they are interested in a certain profession, that they're going to be able to go into this spreadsheet and find people who are Annalee alums who are in that field. So if they're interested in becoming an electrician or interested in teaching, they can contact these alumni and discuss, how did you get to be where you are? And I thought that was such a great idea. So it's called the Annalee Alumni Network for our students, and I'm very excited to have that up and going. Right now, we have alums who are filling it out, and then it will be put together and presented to our student body, which I think will be great. And I will end with a shout out thank you to our Annalee Ed Foundation for funding a kiln for our ceramics. So thank you so much, Annalee Ed Foundation, for your continued support of our great teachers and programs. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shauna. So now we will move on to board member reports, and I will start with Jolie.
Okay, yesterday I went to the budget perspective workshop concerning the governor's budget. That was really interesting and hopeful. And then I also attended the new board orientation for SCO, and that was very informative also. So both meetings, I got a lot of information. It was great.
Thank you. Welcome, Lori. Do you have a report tonight? I think you're on mute.
There I am. Yeah, I also attended the new board orientation from SCO yesterday, and I thought it was really, really helpful and very interesting. I've been doing some background reading on different things that are, have worked with school boards around the country for different changes, and kind of taking a look at what we're doing and trying to get my feet under me as we move forward, and sort of like on my own kind of developing ideas of different approaches that when we finally get to the point where we can, take a look at things like curriculum and things like that, would be really interesting for the board to maybe entertain. But for right now, just doing some study on my own and attending as many of the workshops, particularly that SCO is offering, and signed up for other ones as well for the future ones. And that's it.
Great, thank you. And Angie.
I'm excited to do more of the CSBA trainings. And then I've had the personal experience of working with the college and career coordinators at both Annalee and El Molino. And I just wanted to commend them on all of the information, and just they have so many great resources. I really encourage any parents of juniors or seniors, or as your kids progress, just utilizing their information, whether it's college or career. They just have a lot of great resources and info. And once you kind of connect with them, they kind of keep updating you on information. And it's just been really helpful, and we've learned a lot. And it just kind of keeps the process exciting as we move along and get ready to send another one off to college. So I just encourage people to reach out and utilize those resources. I think I've seen, I believe it was either email or social media, both Annalee and El Molino kind of putting in their newsletters and stuff, just different information. So, and then there are also, I think, congrats to Jordan Brown. She had her baby, and she's got somebody filling in for her that just posted about looking for community members that want to share about their careers, to kind of use those as a resource for the kids too. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. Jeannie, do you have a report?
Yes, thank you. I can't even tell you the date that it was now. It all seems to run together. But back a couple of weeks ago, I attended the briefing that was done with regards to the budget. It was right after the day or whatever after that CSBA did that board budget review. It was very helpful. It was lengthy, but it was good. And then attended yesterday as well, the one that SCO put on. So that was pretty much same perspectives. Other than that, just taking care of my hand.
All right, well, thank you. Well, and tonight I just wanted to acknowledge, I know we're not supposed to talk about, I'm not endorsing a political candidate, but I do think I would be remiss not to acknowledge the important day we had today, where we have our first female vice president elected, who's also the first Black and first South Asian person elected to vice president. So today was a pretty amazing day, and I, feel honored that I get to serve on a board with 5 women leaders in our community, with a female superintendent. And I just wanted to acknowledge that today was a pretty special day, just feeling hopeful, about the future of our direction. And I think, obviously just some serious conversations we have to have as a country and as different institutions that often have systems in place that perpetuate, structural racism. And I know that I'm excited to have a different leadership that can hopefully, create a better environment in our country that will help us get onto a better pathway. And I loved Amanda Gorman, and I was so inspired by her. And this quote really resonates with me, just even thinking about some of the challenges that we're faced with our district right now. There is always light if only we're brave enough to be it. And I just really encourage us all to think about that and think about what it means to embody some of that light in ourselves each day. So again, feeling hopeful and looking forward to the next 4 years without trying to get super political. Sorry. So now we can move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, got myself unmuted there. Good evening, everyone. I have several items to report tonight. The first is that we did receive our letter from SCO that we usually get after we have filed our interim budgets. They have agreed with our qualified status that we filed for first interim. And as expected, due to the qualified status, we are required to adopt and implement a fiscal recovery plan that addresses the deficit spending and assures minimum reserve levels can be met in the current and subsequent years. So I have a copy of this that I can forward to each of the board members if you want to see the actual letter. The second thing is today I submitted a CTE grant intent to apply. The CTE grant has really three focuses. One is the implementation of our Portrait of a Graduate. We started Portrait of a Graduate 2 years ago, and due to other things happening in our district, haven't been able to move forward with it. So this grant would help us in the implementation of our Portrait of a Graduate and in having it be ingrained, or I wouldn't say ingrained, integrated into everything we do in our district. The second component of the grant is unity and bringing our district together, whether we consolidate or not, but a real focus on bringing the community together under one goal in the interest of our students. And the third prong of the grant application is the development of college and career pathways for students and the beginning of using hands-on activities and in the development of those pathways. So that's the focus of the intent of the grant. There's a follow-up interview on Tuesday where I will learn more and the committee will learn more, and then we'll be able to tell you where we stand with that. The next thing I wanted to report to the board is that we have started several district committees. And those committees are, the first one is a bell schedule committee. And that is due to the fact that according to law, we must change our start time to 8:30 beginning in the 22-23 school year. Since we are already starting at 8:30 and have been starting at 8:30 for this whole school year, it was the recommendation of staff that we begin the 8:30 start time next year. So we have a committee of teachers and classified staff that will be helping to come up with recommendations for the district and the board on the bell schedule. The second one is a curriculum committee. That curriculum committee will be looking at any new curriculum that comes into the district and also reviewing any of the curriculum that's come into the district in the past couple of years that has not yet come to the board for approval. The next one is a unity committee. And this committee, their focus would be to start bringing us together as a district now. And like I said, whether we consolidate or not, there are many activities we can do to bring the district together and have us all working towards one goal for students. And so that would be the focus of that committee. We will be starting, you're going to hear in a little bit, Jeff's going to talk about the budget that everyone's been referring to tonight and the realities of the budget for our district. And due to the fact that we need to develop a fiscal recovery plan, we will be reconvening the superintendent's budget committee. The hope is that we can get many of the people that were on the superintendent's budget committee in the past years to continue so that we don't have to start from scratch in explaining our budget, but certainly we will welcome new members to that, and there will be slots for community members to be included in that committee. And then the last one that we're going to start is the Lcap Committee. We do have to file an Lcap this year. It is due to be a public hearing and approval by the board in June. And so we're asking that site council members would help or volunteer to be on the Lcap committee, since the Lcap is what does control our supplemental grant funds that we get from the state. So we will be starting, we're hoping to start those committees the beginning of February. And then I can report back to the board where each of those committees are in terms of their duties. There's been several conversations or questions tonight about sports, and Shauna did mention about the tiers. I did check with our athletic directors, And right now, the reason why there is no conditioning happening is that we're in a stay-at-home order. So until that stay-at-home order is lifted, there is no conditioning allowed of any of our school sports. Once the stay-at-home order is lifted, there is a guide that I have on my desktop right now. There is a guide that's come out from the CDHP, it's the public health, the California Department of Public Health, that has the tiers identified. And in the purple tier, as Shauna mentioned, there are certain sports that can play in the purple tier. So as soon as the stay-at-home order is lifted, the sports that are listed there will be the sports that will begin first. But since we have some issues with our facilities, there's going to have to be some cooperation in terms of when those sports start for both girls and boys. And then it will move. There's a whole nother list of sports can start in red, another for orange, and then the last tier that's listed here is yellow. So that's the reason why we don't currently have any conditioning, and that will be the guidelines that we will need to follow when we do start coming back for conditioning for sports. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was parcel tax letters, information letters about the parcel tax in terms of what Measure A will be covering went out to staff and to parents and families today, along with the frequently asked questions. So I know there was some comments about information that had or had not gone out, but that information actually went out to our community today with the frequently asked questions. That information is also posted on the district website for people to reference as well. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I think now we will move on to our discussion and action items. This evening, we start with education services. And so, Tony, our first item is consideration of approval of our governance handbook.
Yes, we had a special board meeting, a week ago. I think it's been about a week, where we did discuss the governance handbook and made some recommendations for changes to the document. I did make those changes in the updated governance handbook. I believe the draft was in the board packet. There were some additional changes, several changes in terms of there was one that said promoting and should say promote. So I've made that change. There was one other change that I think was more significant. It wasn't just a wording or a dropping of an ing. And that had to do with attendance participation at meetings during agendized items. It's actually on the page, and I could probably show this to you. Let me get my mouse where it needs to go. Sure. Okay, so I'll make this a little bit bigger, 150. Okay, so in this section right here where it says attendance participation at meetings during agendized items, this section right here says typically the board discussion, and it did say preceded audience participation, and the rule actually for our meetings is that the board discussion actually follows audience participation. So I changed the word preceded to follows. So that was one of the other changes. Otherwise, the rest of it should be exactly as it is in the packet.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that, Tony.
Before we open it up to discussion, can I get a motion?
I move that we accept the handbook with the changes made.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jolie. All right, any comments or questions from the audience? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and do our roll call vote. Jeannie Fernandez.
Aye.
Julie.
Aye.
People moved. Lori.
Aye.
And Angie.
Aye.
All right, and our student representatives. So
you gotta vote for yourself, Kelly.
Oh, I always forget myself. Kelly, aye. Thank you, Jeannie. Jev, and welcome. Hi, thank you. Jeannie Broom.
Aye.
Satori.
Aye.
Thank you.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Lori Fadave for your work on this. Lori, thank you very much for doing that. Putting your English teacher's eyeballs on it. That was good.
And I do want to acknowledge that we got some really great edits still from Diane Landry on some grammatical things in addition. So some of them were overlapping, Lori. So.
That's great. It actually felt good to get that old correcting pen in my hand again. Thank you. And thank you, Diane.
All right, so next we will go to first reading of a number of recommended revisions from board CSBA December 2020 updates for board policies and administrative regulation. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, so we had this at one of our previous board meetings. The CSBA sends quarterly updates to board policy based on changes in law and ed code. So this is the December quarterly packet that they sent, and it lists all of them, and I believe they were all copied on. So the changes that are made are based on new law or regulations in those. I didn't know if the board had any questions on any of the particular board policies.
Does anyone? This is a first reading, so just for Julie and Lori. So generally, we'll get the packet, they'll come for a first reading, we ask any clarifying questions, and then generally they'll come back for approval on consent at the next meeting.
I was going to ask that if we can put it on consent.
Yes, any questions on any of the policies, anything that you needed clarified? Okay, any questions or comments from our audience? Okay, seeing none, I think we are good then. And yes, I think we're all in agreement that this can come back on a consent next time.
Perfect.
So moving on to our next item, we have a series of of consideration of approval of proposed new course of study for Statistics for Life.
Mm-hmm. And what I'd like to do for this item and for the following 3 items is I'd like to introduce Allie Green, principal at Laguna, and she has several teachers, I think, that are going to talk about the courses that are that they are bringing forward tonight.
Kelly, we need to get a motion first.
Yes. Well, okay, motion.
Yes. Motion.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
I so moved.
Your motion, Jeannie?
Sounds like Lori just did. I'll second it.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Jeannie. And then I think the teachers raised their hands, so you can bring them in, Jenny.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Are we set to start?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we have 4 courses that we are going to present on, and I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of where we are coming from in the creation of these courses, and then I'll leave it off to the teachers who, with the help of Nicole Wilkinson, who's also here, who does work-based learning for the county, has been working with us on that. So I'm going to do a presentation. Awesome. So thank you. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to let us present our courses. We've been working on them for a few months, and we're really excited about the work we've done. So this kind of came through we actually didn't have a name until today. So today we named it our interdisciplinary planning team, but it was kind of an organic group of teachers and staff along with Nicole that kind of took some data points that we had collected. We looked at our youth truth survey and we looked at a student survey. And what overwhelmingly came out of that was that the kids at Laguna feel very connected to Laguna. They feel very connected to our teachers and our staff, and that they don't necessarily see that the curriculum we have connects them to the real world. So we kind of
talked about that in our school side council. And what kind of came from that conversation is that what the kids showed a desire for, and what the teachers showed a desire for, and actually we had a couple community members in that as well, was to create interdisciplinary classes. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. Before we talk about the classes themselves, this is part of our general overall plan. I presented our CSI plan a couple of months ago, and it's a big plan. So we essentially it's a 4-tiered plan. Like, we are trying to support kids' basic needs. So Laguna hovers somewhere between 60 to 80% free and reduced lunch. We have the highest percentage of foster and homeless youth in the district. And so we think it's important to support basic needs. And so we've been doing that. We do grocery delivery once a week. We buy school supplies, and Laguna's always had a closet for clothing that kids can come get clothing. We've always had a really strong net of social emotional support. We have 2 mental health counselors that are dedicated to our kids and are supporting us. But we are also we've also worked this year in creating counsel, which I've talked about before. And then we also partnered with an organization through SCO, Roots to Rise, which is a social emotional learning program that we are getting the training for so that we can use it next year. And then what we're talking about tonight is kind of the next 2 parts of our plan. We really want to create engagement in the classroom through our curriculum. And we want to redesign some of our courses, not necessarily all of our courses, but some of our courses, to use project-based learning. We got project-based learning training over the summer. And we want to create interdisciplinary classes that are highly engaging for the kids to support their attendance, to support their graduation rates. And then the last thing is that we really want to focus on Srjc connectedness on campus and 100% FAFSA completion. And Leah Woody has been working really hard on that, and we appreciate that. So this is kind of where we came to the courses that we're presenting tonight. We're a continuation high school. We are a non-traditional, we are an alternative education program. And so we wanted to create a non-traditional platform for our classes. The staff actually chose, as part of their CSI plan last year, project-based learning. And so we got project-based learning curriculum, and one of our teachers had been teaching at a project-based learning school, and she's presenting tonight. We also, because we are a variable credit school, we wanted to be able to leverage that variable credit so that if we're doing interdisciplinary classes, that depending on what the teacher is teaching and kind of where the content of that class is going, that we can give kids credits in different areas. The kids who come to us credit deficient. It's usually why they come to us. And so we want to make sure that we create opportunities of engagement and learning for them that meet their credit needs as well. Kind of what we've talked about as a staff and as our interdisciplinary planning team is that we are trying to create a non-traditional classroom experience within a very traditional system, which is that each class is worth 5 credits, and those classes are very prescribed of 5 credits for English. And so we're trying to kind of work within that system and be creative about it. We want to make sure that we are tailoring our curriculum to a student's skill set and developing their skill sets further, while also making sure that we are supporting their credit deficiencies. And then the last thing is we don't want work-based learning, and we don't want soft skills to be something that they learn externally. We want that built into everything that we do. We want them to learn communication. We want them to learn resume writing, good interview skills as part of who we are and what we are doing. And now I'm going to hand it off to Nicole.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Ochoa Wilkinson. I'm a proud West County alumni and currently a teacher on loan from our district to the County Office of Education, acting as a work-based learning and college and career readiness coach. My work is funded by the Strong Workforce Partnership Grant, in which West County is a partner. In my new role, I have the privilege of working with teachers and staff across the county to infuse work-based learning into both traditional and CTE curriculum. This effort requires a lot of time, support from all levels from a district, and a willingness to reimagine what college and career readiness means within our classrooms. So to provide some context around what work-based learning is. Work-based learning is an instructional strategy utilized by teachers in both CTE and traditional courses. Students who have the opportunity to participate in work-based learning experiences explore the authentic connection between subject-specific content and how that content is applied or utilized in our real world. This strategy requires a working relationship between teachers and local industry professionals, ideally facilitated through site, college, and career coordinators or a work-based learning coordinator. High-quality work-based learning experiences are grounded in the standards and leverage student curiosity. The goal of work-based learning is to engage students by proving to them that our content is relevant to their real lives. Students who engage in a variety of work-based learning experiences are better positioned to make conscious plans about their lives after high school. We plan to provide such experiences for students at Laguna through the design of our interdisciplinary courses. Teachers at Laguna will be requesting ongoing feedback from their students, and we hope to share what we learn with teachers and admin at our comprehensive sites. I'd be happy to answer questions or talk more about this with curious teachers and or local industry professionals. Thank you so much for your time.
As part of this, we also partnered with one of Nicole's partners, Christy Carlson, who is helping us with Srjc Articulation. And I've said this before, it's one of our goals to get as many students as we can to take Srjc classes while still in high school. There is a lot of research that shows that kids who take community college classes while still in high school have far greater post-secondary success. Srjc is in a kind of like in a freeze right now. So we originally were trying to have them teach classes on our campus after school is a concurrent enrollment program. And that didn't work because they couldn't add any more classes. So we are attempting an Srjc Articulation where we own a course. The course is ours, which is one of the courses we're going to present on tonight. The students take the class in the end of first semester. They apply to go to attend just Srjc. They become Srjc students. We get them through the application process. And then at the end of second semester, they essentially it's credit by examination or by project. So essentially the kids take the class all year. At the very end, if they pass the exam or finish the project, they get credit for the class, but it doesn't negatively impact their transcripts in college if they don't. And so now I believe is our first presenter. So this is, I think we are set to go, right, Tony? Okay. So now it goes to Sue.
Hi, how do you do? It is an honor to be here. Thank you, Board of Trustees, families, faculty, everyone for even being here. Because I'm kind of into life and statistics, can I ask a really big favor? Could you all just stand up for a second? Because you've been sitting for over an hour and a half. And this is also part of our Roots to Rise. And if you could just put your hands above your head. I'm sorry, you're seeing my belly. I've got sweats on. If you don't have pants on, that's okay. Just kind of stretch for a second and shake out your arms. I really appreciate it. And then that way I can dive in, because we are in the process of witnessing completely unprecedented and historic times. We witnessed that today in the inauguration. We're witnessing it in the recession, natural disasters, our pandemic. And this really disrupts learning. It is tough as nails to be a teacher, a student in this world. And as a result of this, education is also on its way of changing forever. And this is a great opportunity for us to really, really delve into engaging and inspiring and empowering our students. It's so important. College is going to be changing. Everything is changing. We don't know when we're all going to be back to give each other a hug, which all I want to do is do that with my kids every single day, and I can't do it. So Statistics for Life is basically, if you think about the fact that the ability to work with and understand and use data has literally become an essential life skill. Every time any of you are touching a button, you are being recorded, and that is data. And there are jobs out there that we don't even know about that are going to be analyzing all of this data and how to work with this data. When you even talk, how many times have you been really surprised that, oh my gosh, I was just talking about that couch and holy crap, it just came up on an ad on my phone. They know you, and these kids are really wired in. Currently, there is a curriculum that is actually being developed by Stanford, Google, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is called The Exploration in Data Science. And that actually could potentially become a class that could become an A to G and actually replace Algebra 2 or be in addition to. Statistics for Life is going to be comprised of these units: career exploration, career preparation, personal finance, and then ultimately culminating all of this is into presenting where am I going with my life, potentially doing internships or externships. Something I want you to also understand is the student population that we have at Laguna High, they currently are coming in at a median grade level of 4th grade in mathematics. So concurrently with all of this, our goal is to be running additional programs and software things such as Edmentum and ExactPath to get them so that they have the ability to continue on into higher education. What the students will ultimately develop from this is they're going to understand, have an understanding of data analysis, sampling, correlation, causation, bias, uncertainty, probability, modeling with data, and evaluation on the base of arguments. I have been playing with this for quite some time. This is my first year of being at Laguna, and I'm so honored to be part of this team that works with every single student and cares about every single individual. But I have had also close to 20 years of maths teaching, and this is my second career because prior to this, I was 20 years in high-tech software sales executive. And so I feel that selling math, this has been the toughest sales profession that I've ever had in selling math to high school students. And I feel as though I've been pretty successful. And a program like this is going to offer truly what I mentioned earlier, the empowerment of these students to move forward with their life. Thank you.
So I think we want to go ahead and continue with this, move forward with this course request, and then they'll continue with the next one on the next agenda item.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because we actually have to vote on these separately. So if we could bring it back to the board for a minute, that would be great. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the Statistics in Life course. Is there any comment or questions from the public? Okay, seeing none. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I have a comment.
Go for it.
One word, awesome. This is earlier when I said that I was taking a look at curriculum, this is exactly the kind of thing that I'm hoping that we see more of. Congratulations, guys. Incredible job. And I fully support this.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Yeah, good.
I'd like to say my one word is awesome.
Jolie?
I just think that it's wonderful how they're paying attention to their clientele and developing curriculum based on their students and not making their students form to a curriculum. It's just outstanding. And the interdisciplinary learning is, I mean, that's the way we learn in life. That's the way we learn in our jobs. That's incredible too. And the fact that it's data-driven is so important. Just great job. Very impressed.
Yeah. Jeannie?
I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Allie because she listened. These are the kinds of things that we talked about when we were looking to hire somebody, about the things we wanted to see, and doing this interdisciplinary work, doing hands-on learning and doing, career-based learning. Great job, Allie. I'm just so excited to see where this all goes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and I echo similar, just great all around, and similar thank you for listening to the students' input. So glad we had the youth truth data and different elements to look at to really use to inform this process. And I love it on so many different levels. So thank you for putting this together. With that, with any more board discussion, we didn't have any public comment. Let's go ahead and take a vote to approve this course of study. So I will start now. Jeannie Fernandez.
Aye.
Jolie.
Aye.
And it messed me up because the screen share went away. Angie. I think that's her. Where is Angie? Oh, she's not there. So Lori?
Aye.
And Kelly, aye. Jev?
Aye.
Yeah, I'll go back to Angie. You're back, Angie.
Sorry,
Yeah.
my Wi-Fi is struggling. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're just voting.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Jeannie Broom?
Aye.
And Satori?
Aye.
All right, great. And then we can move on to the next item, which is consideration of approval proposed new course of study, sustainable living. So can I have a motion for that?
I so move.
Thank you, Lori.
I second.
Thank you, Jolie. Okay, now we'll go back to the presentation.
Okay, so is it sharing? I can't actually, it looks funny on my screen. No.
Yeah, just showing showing share screen. It's not actually going into your PowerPoint. Oh, now it says loading. Okay, there we are. But you're all the way at the beginning, so you have to click that forward.
All right. So I believe the next one on the board is motion would be for sustainable living.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that is Hallie Richards. So I'd like to introduce Hallie Richards.
Kelly, we should make a motion first.
We already did. Didn't we?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I swear I did.
You did.
Because you're helping me be on point every other time. So I appreciate you.
Okay, so hi, I'm Hallie Richards. Thank you all so much for having me. And I just want to follow in what other people are saying about Allie, which is that I feel so supported and that she's just been so inspiring as a principal. So I want to put that out there. I also wish that Sue had been my math teacher when I was in high school. I'm Hallie. I teach art with Laguna High School and Spanish with Annalie. But I also have a social science credential and an education background in anthropology, international affairs, things like that, that will sort of be hopefully entangled into this course. So sustainable living would be exploring sustainability through the micro and macro lens. It's about how an individual student's decisions and lifestyles can actually impact the greater world. But it's very project-based and I think would help students gain real skills. And I think that they would also have a really good time. So one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this is because this is giving our students, who many of whom have had not experienced success in the realm of academia, this is giving them not only a chance to get by, but a chance to be leaders and to really succeed. So I can just walk you through quickly the units. Unit 1 would be responsible consumerism. And this would be an exploration of the roots of modern consumerism through things like the Industrial Revolution and even different labor movements, current union activity. I would have students choose something that they bought recently, whether it was some type of food or clothing. And we'd begin the semester by students tracing back the origins of this product. How many ingredients are in it, or how many parts does it have? From which countries do all these things come from? What, how much oil did it take to get there? Really like digging into where these things come from. And then that would sort of be our launching off point as students really begin to explore their own impact. So in Unit 2, for example, homesteading students would come up with a project. It might be an upcycling project where instead of buying something new, right, our exploration in economics would be like exploring things that are made to break. So how about fixing something that was made a long time ago, that was made really well, and making it useful again, making it beautiful? Or maybe you want to figure out how to make your own product rather than buying something from the store. Is that more sustainable? Is it more sustainable for you economically? Really, students would be choosing their own projects to explore based on that initial research. And so that would be more of semester 1. Responsible consumerism would be interwoven, I guess, throughout the course, and that reflection on consumerism. In the gardening and farming, so the second semester, we would turn more towards agriculture, gardening and farming. Students would be learning about composting, about how, like, the importance on the scientific level, like keeping CO2 in the ground rather than releasing it in the air, right? So they're gaining these real life skills, but also learning why these things are important in a more academic sense. And once again, exploring through the realm of international relation or international affairs, like where these products are coming from, what are the government regulations in the country where this is coming from? Why can you get it, how are the people treated that are making it or growing it? Just asking these larger questions, and then sort of forming into how can you buy local as much as possible or eat seasonally as much as possible, which would bring us more into the final quarter, which is more culinary. So we could interweave elements of nutrition. We could interweave all sorts of different topics as students learn culinary skills themselves. We could throw some math in there, like measuring different things. So yeah, and the other element of the culinary is I would love for students to engage in a cultural study of local indigenous populations, how they ate prior to colonization, so many different things that I could go on and on about, but I'll try and contain myself. But the basic idea is that this is project-based. All the research, there's a project related, and students are working with their hands. They're learning real skills. There's real world exposure. I'm hoping to take students on field trips or they could do field work, or they could be an apprentice. And I also plan to bring in guest teachers who are professionals in their field or experts that students can learn from and build community ties with. Overall, it's inquiry-based. And the last thing I want to say is that it's solution-based. So when we're talking about the environment, I don't want to take a doomsday approach that we all already know about. I want to engage students in finding real solutions, and like real things they could do day to day to be leaders and to create change. And I included this photo from Ecuador, where I was living with an indigenous community called the Ochoa. And I just wanted to say one last thing where in the Ochoa language, they don't actually have a word for trash. So today, and I lived that, and I saw it, and that every single thing has a use. And so today, when they say the word trash, they use the Spanish word basura. But I think that we have so much to learn from cultures like this, and that's another element I would like to pull in. All right, that was a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Hal. So I think now
we'll come back to the board for a vote on that one. Yes, sorry. Yeah. All right, so we have a motion and a second on a motion on the floor. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to make comment on this item? Okay, seeing none. Any comments from the board? Jeb.
I just have to say, as a student, this is a class that I would absolutely love to take. This sounds like everything I've ever wanted from a class. And I think it's going to be, I think it's a really, really good idea for students and to get students with project-based learning and interactive learning. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, no better endorsement than that. Any other comments from the board?
I'd just like to say that the globally minded aspect of it is really fantastic. And just appreciating that other cultures don't do things exactly the same way we do is so important in the world today. It's a great element of the program.
Thank you. Jeannie, it looks like you wanted to make a comment.
I'm just blown away. Hallie, what a great leader you are. You were so exciting. I want to come take this class just listening to you. It's so exciting. And these kids are just going to have a ball. And Jeb said it right. It's what people want to hear and do today. So this project-based learning is everything we've asked for. And I just, I'm humbled and honored to be a part of this. Thank you.
I'd like to add that I'm really happy that you're offering this to train and to teach and empower the young people of our community so that they can teach us. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, let's go ahead and vote. So Lori, you're first on my screen now.
Aye.
All right. And now Jeannie Fernandez.
Aye.
And Angie.
Aye.
And Jolie.
Aye.
And Kelly. Aye. And now to Jeannie Broom.
Aye.
And Jev.
Aye.
And Satori.
Aye.
All right, thank you. So now we're going to move on to the next recommended course, which is up on the screen for construction. So can I get a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Oh, thanks. I think Angie beat you to it. So we'll give it to her and we'll go on. Who's making the construction? Is that you, Joe? Yeah.
Hello. Thank you. My name's Joe Maloney, and I am currently teaching over at Laguna. And members of the board, thank you so much for the opportunities that you've given us. And we're grateful also for Allie being the conductor that is helping to coordinate us and helping to get us collaborating together so that we can work together on some exciting things. And I think the students are excited about some of it and some of the input that we're getting from them. And I think what you've seen is we're really looking into the student interest and how it drives their ability to be engaged and to learn. And I've been fortunate to be on the end of that with the North Bay Construction Corps, with the Elmo, Annalee, and Laguna students over the past few years that have really dug in and pursued opportunities, whether those were vocational opportunities where they're now working in the trades, or they're actually out in college courses in engineering and other things. And that's what we hope to do with this type of class as well. And I'd like to take my experiences over the past 30 years of being a building contractor and a home inspector and share that with the students so that they can start to learn and see that they have resources so that they can get a good paying job, and that there are training opportunities, and that there's a multitude of educational opportunities right in front of them, right here at the junior college. I've been fortunate to go to about, I think, 9 different classes at the junior college with students over the past 5 years, and it just opens up a new opportunity for them. And this junior college especially, as you may or may not know, they've got a $10 million grant where they're going to open up a building trades building down in Petaluma in the next few years. And they also have just dozens of classes that are the next step for a student to take after they may have tasted a vocational opportunity. So this class is more of a practical construction, as you can see just from the basic 4 steps there. There's over 70 professions and trades involved in residential construction. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to teach them the language of construction and help them learn about the opportunities available for them and the resources that are around them. The one thing that Allie really encouraged, and so did the other, my other 2 colleagues, is that we really want to work together in helping one another with the skills that we have, as well as bringing in the industry partners and the community members that are just so eager to help, and some are helping currently. So let's see. What I'd like to do is just briefly with the first with the first chapter, we'd probably introduce them to several different computer-aided drafting, CAD, opportunities. And there are many safety certifications that we can offer for them, including OSHA 10, job site safety, advanced first aid, CPR, AED. And while we're doing that, we would also hopefully have opportunities with machinery that we can get them learning on some of that machinery and move into the second phase of introduction to tools and small projects. So you see tile working, but what we see there is construction involves mathematics on almost a minute-by-minute basis. And measurements are hugely important, as are algebraic and geometric functions. And that is a key to helping these students to success, is learning to express themselves through understanding numbers and understanding how to read a tape measure, understanding angles, and allowing them to use that in a practical way, whether it's squaring up sections of a house or a deck with the Pythagorean theorem, or it's just using angles in a simple project that the art teacher and myself would do together. We'd move on to basic maintenance and troubleshooting so that students can come home and they can fix the drain, they can change the toilet, they can do several of the other things that mom or dad would have to call a plumber or an electrician for, some very basics. We have many different contractors that would love to come in and just spend a little time with students to share their knowledge. Okay. Carpentry and painting, introduction to those are also areas that we would explore in that 3rd chapter. And in the 4th chapter, we'd bring some things together with residential construction and some of the maintenance issues around a house. Where's your emergency shutoff? Do you know how to shut off your electric panel? How about if you got a gas leak? Do you know how to shut off your gas, your plumbing, clean out? And several of the other things that are very practical, but they would also be something that you could go further into and maybe become a building inspector. And my sister's the one who inspired me to go into carpentry. So I think I'll leave it at that, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Joe. And let's first ask the audience if they have any comments. Okay, seeing none. Any comments from the board? Angie.
You guys all kind of took the words out of my mouth with all of the other ones, but to just see the community involvement and see the full circle of alumni and just so many people getting involved in all of these things, I mean, it's been said already, but these things are just so awesome for the kids.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, let's go ahead and vote. So Lori.
Hi.
Thank you. Angie.
Hi.
Jeannie Fernandez.
Hi, great job, Joe.
Jolie.
Aye.
Kelly. Aye. And where are we? So Jev.
Aye.
Aye. And Jeannie Broom.
Aye.
And Satori. I think we maybe lost Satori. I'm not seeing Satori any longer. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And now we'll move on to the next item, which is this course study of web development. Can I get a motion on that one?
So moved.
Thank you, Jeannie. And a second?
I'll second.
Oh, was that Jolie?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you. You're back to me. The last course that we are asking to be approved is actually the web development course from Srjc. We partnered with Srjc to be able to offer this class, and it'll be Sue Taggart, who's here with us again, who would be teaching the class. She's taking the class right now, and the professor of the course agreed to give us the curriculum for it. Why we chose this class is that it goes over the basic design, web design and coding, but more importantly, it's a common prerequisite for multiple pathways at Srjc, specifically in computer science and game design, or web design and game design. Both of those, Srjc has a program, and if students choose to go with the game design, there is a corollary program at UC Santa Cruz that if students complete the pathway at our Srjc and meet the grade requirements, that they would automatically be accepted to UC Santa Cruz, which has the world's leading game design program. So the students will take web development with us at Srjc. It's a 1 semester class. We are going to stretch it out into a 1-year class where they learn web design and coding. And I wish I could tell you more specifics about it, but we are learning it as we are going, but we do have the outline, and we pushed the outline out to you guys. We are hoping that this is just the first opportunity that we have to do an articulated course with Srjc. As I said earlier, it shows there's a great deal of research about the positive impacts college courses have on under-resourced students, and that's the vast majority of our population. And then hopefully we can continue and offer 50B, which is the next course in the sequence, and that would be for the year after next. And that is all I have on that one.
Thank you very much. All right, so we'll go to the public to see if there's any questions on that item. Okay, seeing none. Now back to the board. Any comments or questions on this item?
I have a question.
Jeannie, go ahead.
Allie, you had originally said when you were talking about some of these programs that these might be open to other than Laguna students. Can you give us an update on that?
If we wanted to do it go that direction, which we can't for next year because they are essentially in a hiring freeze. So then it would be SRJC essentially giving, donate a section from their master schedule essentially to us. They at this point are not allowed to do that because they're in a no growth period. So they can't take away a section from an on-campus teacher and essentially have it housed at Laguna. That was where we had originally tried to do it. So at this point, it would only be open to Laguna students because it would be our course. In the future, we would love it if we could do concurrent enrollment, which is where they come after school hours and they teach a course on our campus. They don't have the resource to do that right now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and vote on this one. So Lori?
Aye.
Jeannie Fernandez?
Aye.
Angie Lewis? Aye. Jolie?
Aye.
Kelly? Aye. Jev?
Aye.
And Jeannie Brew?
Aye.
All right, thank you. So those all pass. Good job and awesome work. I'm very excited to hear. So now we will move on to human resources, business services, where we have the consideration of approval of the parcel tax action plan.
You guys have to make a motion, right?
Thanks, Jeff. I always want to make it after you present. I want to do the motion, so sorry. It's like, change that in my mind. All right, can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the parcel tax plan.
Okay, Jeannie, thank you. In a second? Second. All right, thank you. Okay, now Jeff.
All right. So this is something that from what I learned, it looks like gets brought to the board every year, which is essentially a summary of the parcel tax budget plan for the current year and the next 2 years. Really in here just summarizes, in this case, the two parcel taxes that we have, what the estimated revenue is, what it was last year, and the remaining balance basically to show that we used all of the parcel tax for, I believe last year was 39 sections. I think something important to note in here, just because it's come up at past board meetings, is that there are audit requirements in each of the parcel tax measures. So we do have an annual audit of which we are currently going through right now, where they check and make sure, that we have the money, what it's expended on, and so forth. Really the summary here, because we have the overlap in taxes or overlap in the two parcel taxes, we are just able to fund a ton of sections, with these two parcel taxes. So in a typical year with our past parcel taxes, it was kind of in the 39 to 40 range. This year, we're funding 91 total sections out of the two parcel taxes, 46 at Annalee, 40 at Elmo, 5 at Laguna. We're funding both outreach crisis counselors, all the guidance counseling, the librarian, and then you have the small audit cost that's all in this parcel tax budget. As far as the total revenue this year, we expect to use 94%, a little over 93% of it on those positions, and then as the year progresses, anything else that falls into this category, we have a little bit there. If not, it will be rolled over for positions next year. Next year, the expectation is to not have, obviously at this time, budget-wise, not have both parcel taxes. So in this, you'll see next year, we look to be able to fund about 65 sections estimated. And again, just remember the cost of those sections tend to go up, where the revenue of the parcel tax tends to stay flat. So as they go on, the number of sections that can get funded tends to decrease a little bit. So that's what this summarizes.
All right, thanks, Jeff. So with that, I'll go to the audience to see if there's any questions or comments. All right, seeing none, back to the board. All right, well, let's, seeing no questions, let's go ahead and vote on that. So Jeannie Fernandez.
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
Jolie.
Aye.
And then I can't see, oh, there's Lori, you're up in this corner now. Hi, Lori.
Aye.
And Kelly, aye. Jev.
Aye.
Jeannie Broom.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, and now Jeff, we are on to consideration of approval of 2019-2021 budget financial calendar. So can I get a motion on that?
So moved.
All right, thanks, Angie. And a second?
I'll second.
All right, Jeannie, I'll give that to you. And now Jeff, you're on again.
Yeah, so this is just fiscal calendar, financial calendar. It's labeled 2021 and 21-22 just because it's the calendar year. So it covers essentially the second half of the 2021 school year and then the first half of the 21-22 fiscal year. So it just outlines in each month what are the budget or the financial items and who does them.
Okay, awesome. Any comments or questions from the audience? Okay, I see we have one hand and give it a second. Anyone else? All right, Jenny, do you want to go ahead and bring Adam in?
Yeah, and I'm just gonna time him offline if that's okay.
Yeah, if we can give him 3 minutes because he's the only person.
This won't take 3 minutes. Hey, Jeff, I don't know where this fits in, and I apologize if this is an item that should have been brought up earlier, but can you tell us where we're at as far as for the parcel tax, the Measure A parcel tax? There was supposed to be some money coming from the county to help pay for that. Has that been brought up, or is this an appropriate time to talk about that? I'm just curious where that stands, and are we looking to get that money recovered?
What do you think, Tony? This agenda item is technically about the existing parcel taxes. Is it? Can we answer that question under this item?
It's not really. We're actually talking about the budget calendar and not the.
No, yeah, there's the budget calendar. So we're actually totally moved on.
Yeah. It was just a 2021, so I figured it fit into that budget.
Well, Adam, why don't we can get you an answer on that offline? Does that work? We can't.
No, that's okay. It said 2021 budget, so I assume that it was talking about this year, which that would fall under.
Yeah, this isn't a budget. It's not the budget. It's just giving us a calendar on the actual dates when we'll approve certain things, not like when we'll do the first interim, second interim.
No problem.
Not about specific items, but we'll get you an answer, okay?
No problem at all.
All right, thank you. Okay, any questions from the board? All right, well, seeing none, we will go ahead and I appreciate you bringing this every year, Jeff. We didn't always do this, and it's really helpful to have an outline of when all the critical decisions are going to be made related to the budget. So appreciate you putting this together. It's helpful. So with that, we'll go with Lori for her vote.
Aye.
And Jeannie Fernandez.
Aye.
Angie. Aye. And Jolie.
Aye.
And Kelly. Aye. And Jeb.
Aye.
And Jeannie.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, so now we have consideration of approval of monthly budget update for 2019-2020. Well, this is for, are we in 20? This is, the dates are wrong, aren't they?
Yeah, I should say.
Like, where are we? What are we doing? Okay, so with updated dates, can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Jeannie. In a second.
I'll second.
All right, thanks, Lori. And go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so this is just the monthly budget update for December. Just a summary of updates that were made. We had quite a bit of them just because of the first interim, but this essentially just shows the net result in each of the funds.
Great, thank you. Any questions from our audience? All right, any questions from the board? Okay, Lori, you're up. You have to vote.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Jeannie Fernandez.
Aye.
And Angie.
Aye.
And Julie.
Aye.
And Kelly. Aye. Jeff.
Aye.
And Jeannie Broom.
Aye.
All right, thank you. So now we're going to have our next item, which is not an action item. This is a discussion item of our governor's proposed budget. Thanks, Jeff.
Sure. Let me share my screen real quick. How's that for everybody?
Great, thank you.
Okay. So yes, I just want to touch on, honestly, earlier Brian hit on a couple of the points when he was giving his report for the Teachers Association. I wanted to go into a little bit more detail about the budget, a little bit about just the economy as a whole, what were some of the main proposals from the governor's budget proposal, and really how it impacts us. So it's kind of three-tiered in a little bit more detail, but hopefully it'll provide some context to the numbers that were presented earlier, and really the news headlines. News headlines right now look really good. Again, what's the end result? I do think it's important to just remind everybody that this is just a proposal. As we saw last year, a lot can happen in 3 months. I'm not saying that we're going to have another pandemic or another crazy, something that impacts the rest of the world and smashes the budget, but it is a proposal. And last January, we had a similar proposal, and then March happened and things fundamentally changed. Over the next 5 months, this proposal will go to the legislature. It'll go to both houses, the Senate and the House. They'll discuss, they'll create their own budgets. They'll come back together. They'll negotiate with the governor. So one thing we know is it's going to be imperfectly inaccurate, but it still gives us some guidelines of which we can use moving forward. And I do think it'll help us in our approach come second interim time. So just, let me get here, sorry. So just the overall impact, and I stole a lot of these from school services, their presentation. So, really, as we know, California as a whole, the fiscal situation continues to shift month by month, it seems. We have the massive impact to the economy in spring that I'm going to show you a little bit about here in a little bit. The great news for this year is that we've had a faster recovery of state revenues. Yes, we have had some of that federal support, but to be quite honest, from where they thought we were going to be in June to where we ended up being, it really was quite a turnaround, and I'll explain a little bit why really in this next point. So our general revenues as a state, I think I've mentioned this before in prior presentations, are largely dependent on personal income taxes. California is kind of unique in that situation where 70% of our state revenue comes from personal income taxes. And of that 70%, 50% of that is provided by the top 1% of the earners. So really what it means is the people that are super, super wealthy provide 50% of that major pool of the tax base. So where a lot of these revenues came from was the fact that the stock market has done really well over the last 6 months since it recovered there at the tail end of June. And that has created some capital gains for those top earners, which has really allowed for some larger than expected revenues. The economic impact has been unequal, though, and I do think that this is something to keep in mind for the future. Low wage, hospitality, leisure sectors, and really it's kind of that income gap or the inequity. The middle and low income earners have been hit hardest. Those that are in the higher wage earning professions have done okay, have not been as impacted. as a whole, right? Obviously, everybody's going to have their individual story, but as a whole, that's what the numbers show. While the revenues rebounded quickly, the job level has not. So I'm going to show you here in a couple slides what the unemployment looks like in California. We've lost 1.6 million jobs from the beginning of the pandemic till now. So this is an instance where the stock market and the economy are not necessarily hand in hand. And as we look at those future years, I think it would be advantageous to really take a look at the overall economic outlook as to, you know, what might happen down the road. And one thing that was in the governor's budget as well that was not mentioned earlier is the fact that the governor himself warns of structural deficits starting just 2 years from now at the state level. So they are in a similar situation to honestly what we've been talking about for the last couple months, where their expenses are set to increase faster than their revenues. So this is just a quick graphic on what I was talking about the impacts of unemployment on California. As you can see, we had the tremendous steep drop in March, and we've recovered, right, to this baseline, but this baseline is as of 2015. So essentially we had 5 years of growth in employment, and it got wiped out in about, 3 months. And this is through September. So this was even before the holidays, before everything got shut down again. So while we have seen some recovery, again, the economy and the stock market might be on different paths over these next couple of years. And that will impact us because, we do have a lot of these workers, they pay taxes as well, and that tax base could be impacted. Other things to consider is just the fact of commercial real estate is going to take a hit. Vacancy rates are rising. Work from home could be the new norm. Could be a fundamental shift in how things get done. Rental real estate in areas like San Francisco, I think LA, are dropping. Rental rates in the suburbs outside of those areas are increasing rapidly, as I'm sure most of us or anybody who owns a home knows that or is trying to buy a home. The housing market has done very well, which again was kind of an unexpected thing. So we do have some positives within the overall economy. These are just some risks to the state economy as a whole. How will small businesses be able to endure this? Again, I bring these all up because they're all part of the tax base. So personal income tax is 70%, but that other 30% comes from these other places in terms of the future of the revenue. How's the vaccination going to roll out? And how many people are going to leave the workforce and really leave the state, for a lot of different reasons. This next slide here, this was pulled exactly from the governor's budget and the school services presentation. So again, just to show you where those budget shortfalls are anticipated. This isn't 5 years down the road. This is literally in 2 years. And this 22-23 timeline, this is the timeline we've been talking about the whole time. So I don't think we can forget about this just based off of the good news that we do have. Now, as far as how did it impact the education budget, as Brian mentioned earlier, and he was absolutely right, it is so much better than we were thinking it was going to be 6 months ago. The revenues, did increase dramatically. It has put the potential, for a situation where if the governor's budget were to get funded as he is suggesting, that would be great, for schools across the board. And, if you looked at last January's proposal and you look at this January's proposal, there's a lot of similarities. Just as a whole, there's a lot of focus on mental health and school climate, early childhood education, special education at the preschool level, investments in teachers. So these are all things that some will impact us, some will not. And really, like always, they're going to have to find that balance between one-time needs and the deferral payments. When I talk about the major proposals that they had, we'll talk about the deferrals and we'll talk about the COLA. Those are going to be the two things that impact us the most. But just as some general information, you might hear recently about grant funding in order to reopen schools. So one of his proposals was to try to get schools open in February, like February 1st. If you could open, we will give you extra money, kind of thing, right? And then March 1st and April, and there's kind of this tier. It hasn't even got through the House yet, and it's facing early opposition. So this is, I don't know that there's something in, it primarily impacts elementary schools. It's really not going to come to ours, but I did want to touch on it. So if you did hear about it in the news, you had at least a little bit of an idea of what it is. There is money for expanded instructional time. What this is extended school year, an extended summer school, some ways to kind of stretch out our year or start a year early or take some summertime to try to give some additional learning opportunities to students. There is in his proposal quite a bit of money to pay down deferrals. Again, the thing to pay attention to here is that one, it's most deferrals, and two, it's in 21-22. So what that means is the deferrals for this year are still in play. As of his proposal. There is money for the compounded COLA, which is last year's COLA and this year's, and then a 1.5% COLA for additional programs. Again, some student wellness and mental health, training and support for the educator workforce, training for expansion of TK, transitional kindergarten, special education grant, and a cradle to career data system, right? Where basically they just want to track the kids from the time they start school to the time they leave and go to college and see, really what the path looked like. So as far as the deferrals go, I just mentioned it a second ago. So we've talked a lot about how the deferrals might impact our budget. So the deferrals for this year, 2021, are still in play. I've mentioned before that the deferrals this year were not necessarily the thing that was going to get us in trouble in terms of the overall budget outlook. I think we're pretty good with the ability to borrow from other funds to get through the deferrals for this year. And then, so the upside for us in our budget is that his proposal is to pay down basically all but the June deferrals in next fiscal year. So the February, March, April, and May, we would not have to face those. What that means for us as far as the second interim is that takes out, I think, one of the things that would cause us not to meet our financial obligations. So I think that, I've talked before that I know the Legislative Analyst Office, School Services, FCMAT have all made a push for the deferrals. This might be an item that goes to the House, and the House says, we want to fund all deferrals, and then that takes away from somewhere else. So I think we just have to pay attention to this. I think this is definitely good news for us, but really they're talking about next year's deferrals, not this year's deferrals. We'll still have to make our way through those. Again, as Brian mentioned earlier, there was an increase to the LCFF funding and to Prop 98 that came in the form of really a retroactive COLA, right? So how the state budget works, so where we do the current year and then the 2 years ahead of us, they do 1 year behind the current year and 1 year ahead. So when they look at the 1 year behind, what they did is they made all those cuts and they said, all right, we can't give schools the COLA that we thought we were going to give, but then we're here in January, we got more money than we thought we were going to get to. We can go ahead and fund that. So the COLA for 21-22 is 1.5%. Governor Newsom's proposal is to fund both of those in the 21-22 school year. So when we hear 3.84, that's what it is. It's the 2.31 plus the 1.5, which is 3.81. But when you compound it, that's where the 3.84 comes from. So we definitely we got some help potentially with the deferrals. We definitely got some help with funding or potential funding. And so on paper, things are going to look a lot better. Now, what's the overall impact for us? So again, as a whole, the state is in a lot better position, and it's really what's it being compared to? Well, it was being compared to the lowest possible point. So compared to that, it was huge. Even when you compare it to last year's, it's better, as Brian mentioned, from a pure dollar standpoint, it's more money than has gone into Prop 98 than ever before. So it's kind of been this gradual increase. We've been talking a lot from first interim, what the projections are going to be. So really what I did is I took this information and I ran 4 different scenarios to give us a little bit of an idea, maybe a window as to kind of what range are we really going to be looking in. So I just wanted to remind everybody, right, that as of first interim, what the projections were a 0% COLA in each of the next 2 years. So no additional funding or no increase in funding. So what that left us with was projected deficit spending of $1.45 million next year and $2 million the year after that. And we were looking at an absolute minimum of $1.8 million in reductions for the following year. This is where we're currently at, right? So this is where, the big conversations are coming from. So if I take just the governor's proposal and I apply his numbers into the calculator, what that does is you'll notice on the good side, it reduces our deficit spending by about $400,000, $450,000 in next year. The downside is we still have $1 million of deficit spending. So while it does definitely help, even in the best case scenario, we still have the structural deficit that we need to contend with. So it would help us in 22-23 as well by reducing that amount of deficit spending. So really what it would do is it would take us from looking at that $1.8 million number to needing a minimum of $600,000 in reductions. So we're still looking at reductions, we're still looking at deficit spending, but it's not nearly as drastic as we had even in December from a projection standpoint. Now, this is one projection, again, that can be used. A more conservative projection is from school services. And again, I think Brian made note of them earlier as far as the information that he got, and I think he quoted them even. So we're using similar resources as far as where the information is coming from. So they have a little bit more of a conservative approach. So what happens is FCMAT and the powers that be put out what's called a dartboard, and these are the guidances that we use. So both of these are on there. So school services puts out the dartboard. So they put theirs on there strictly because it was quite a bit different in year 2 and year 3. So they agree that the first year COLA will be in line with what the governor's proposal is, but they think maybe the COLA in the 2 out years might be a little bit lower. So I ran this scenario, said, what would this do for us? This would, again, it would help us out in year 1, right, where it would reduce our deficit spending to $1 million in year 1 and 1.4 in year 2. And what we would be looking at is a minimum of 800,000 in reductions. So I've talked with SCO, as far as second interim goes and what assumptions that we can use. And it's my understanding as of right now that I will be able to use one of these 2 assumptions. I am probably going to run, or not even probably, I will continue to run both of these scenarios. So the upside is I think that the fiscal recovery plan for year 2 is still going to be needed. I think it's going to be a smaller number. But on paper, like I said, I think we can do this. Now, I told you I ran 4 scenarios. So for me, the other part of this is if enrollment stays how we think it is right now. And, it's been brought up that what's the impact of these talks? What's the impact of the pandemic? How many kids are leaving overall? How many kids are coming in? And so what I did is I ran additional scenarios with both the governor's proposal and school services and said, okay, what if we had those, but then we also had enrollment loss further than what we're expecting? So I did it with a 5% reduction. So this is on top of what we think we're going to be losing. So that means roughly about 90 kids. So to me, I think that that's a pretty big number. So I feel like that's hopefully a conservative number as far as additional student loss. But what would that look like? And then you can see we're still looking at projected deficit spending. In this case, even with the governor's proposal, if we had reduction in enrollment and associated ADA, we'd be looking at about $1.5 million in reductions for the 22-23 school year. And then if I ran it with the school services proposal, that lower COLA, what would happen is this would basically be a similar scenario to as we are right now. And so I'm not saying, I'm never going to say one of these is the thing that is going to happen, right? Which is why I want to give kind of an idea of what's maybe the best case scenario, what's the most conservative scenario, and then we can have discussions about where we're going to land kind of in between as a team. So, the takeaways as a whole was that the proposal, again, was much better news, undoubtedly much better news. Unfortunately, we're just not quite out of the woods just yet. We still remain with a significant structural deficit that I feel should be remedied for the long-term health of the district, financial health of the district. The number that we're looking at for 22-23 can range at this point from $600,000 of reductions needed. I think that's probably a best case scenario, unless we get even better news from the House, and 1.7. And I will say that that's on the conservative side of both estimates and enrollment. So I think that that's kind of our window. Again, from the second interim standpoint, I think we're going to be able to, even if I take the conservative approach there, I think the number needed for 22-23 is going to look a little different. It's going to be a lot less than 1.8 million. So that's great news for us. Again, and that's part of fulfilling that role. But I would be remiss if I didn't put these other planning things in here as far as what things are going to actually look like. We will or should get some updated enrollment numbers here in the next month or so. So by the time I do get to second interim in March, hopefully we'll have a better idea of where enrollment sits, and I'll be able to be a little bit more accurate with that data. We do and have received federal assistance. Again, my takeaway here is that even when we do get it, it will still remain in those restricted categories that are designed for a specific purpose. So yes, we recently got some additional, or are expected to get additional funding with the latest package that former President Trump signed in December. And that's basically in there to meet learning loss needs, air filtration, if kids do come back to school. It's kind of got like a lot of the same guidelines that we had before. And again, if I'm looking at, I'm not even saying 5 years down the road, if I'm looking at 2 or 3 years down the road, I do think that there are still some risks to the state economy as a whole that just have to be considered. I'm not saying they have to be the end all be all, but they should be considered as far as planning the future years of our budget. Unfortunately, we can't just plan in a vacuum in 1 year of good news. We have to see how long we can stretch that good news out, based on maybe not so good news somewhere down the road. So I will open it up for any questions.
Great. Well, thank you, Jeff, for, as always, giving us that really amazing overview, really clear and good presentation. So first, we will, this is a discussion item only, so we don't have a motion. Does the board have any clarifying questions? And then we can also ask the audience.
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Julie.
Well, I don't know if this is actually for Jeff. I just was listening to the budget meeting also, and apparently they're going to give money to improve facilities, as you were saying, the air sanitation and filtration. And I was just wondering if we have a really good idea of what's needed to bring our classrooms up for the time when it's ready to have students and teachers back in it. Do we have a good grasp of what we need?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jenny could probably answer better, but I do know that we've Jenny filed for a grant at the end of last year to where we had, I think, 31 air filtration systems put in different classrooms. And then as far as the future needs, what we've talked about, Jenny and I have discussed kind of what it would look like that could well be funded with some of that ESSER money. Whatever. So we're going to get that. So yeah, we definitely do have an idea of what would needed to outfit each of the classrooms, and I believe that we have the funding in order to do that as well, and kind of earmarked for that purpose. Yeah.
And thanks, Jeff, for answering that from the funding perspective. And I know, Tony, we don't have an update necessarily on just our preparations for reopening school, but maybe that's an update that you could send out via TGIF to get more specific information from Jenny.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, our classrooms have been ready for students to come back since we started the school year. They're all positioned where they need to be. There's directional markers. The filters have all been updated. So there's not a lot really in terms of additional things that need to happen, but I can certainly put that in a TGIF for all the board members to know exactly where we are.
Thank you. Any other questions related to the governor's or comments or thoughts? Any questions or comments or thoughts from the audience? All right, well, as always, Jeff, you do just such a great job presenting the information in such a clear way. So, well, it's always hard information to deliver. I know you do a very good job delivering it. So we appreciate you.
We appreciate that.
So now moving on to our human resources item. So Mia, now you're up. So our first item will need a motion for consideration of approval of our monthly personnel report. Anyone want to make a motion?
I move.
Thanks, Lori. And a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Jeannie. All right, Mia.
Hey, this is the monthly personnel report. I do have one addition. I received a letter of resignation from one of our food service workers yesterday. Her name is Sherry McGowan, and her last day is going to be this Friday. So we have the other two, Robin Lyon, who we've increased her to a 1.20 to replace a resignation that we received at the end of this first semester. And then we also received a resignation from Luis Gonzalez, who is one of our custodians, and his last day was on January 5th.
Okay, thank you. All right, any comments or questions on that item from the public? All right, any questions or comments from the board? Okay, we will go ahead and vote. Lori?
Aye.
Jolie?
Aye.
And Jeannie? Fernandez?
Aye.
And Angie?
Aye.
And Kelly? Aye. All right, thank you. Now we will go on to our public hearing on district's initial proposal for contract negotiations with our California School Employee Association for 2020-2021. So we will go ahead and open our public hearing on this item. We do have the next item, which Mia will give an explanation, but for right now, if anyone has any comments from the public who would like to make anyone from the public who would like to make a comment, you can do so. All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and then we will go on to the next item, which is consideration of acceptance of openers from the California School Employee Association, initial proposal for contract negotiations with the district for the 2020-2021 year, and I will need a motion for that item.
So moved.
Thank you, Jeannie. And a second?
Second.
Oh, sorry, Julie.
Okay, I'll give it to Angie. Angie, you got it. Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Jeannie, Mia.
Okay, so this is the proposal from CSEA, and I'll just run through it and mention the articles. They have a little description, which is on the cover sheet. So they're asking to open Article 3, which is organizational security, Article 4, which is wages, Article 12 and 13, which is transfers and promotions, Article 14 is layoffs and re-employment. Article 15 is safety conditions of employment. Article 17 is the grievance procedures. And Article 21 is negotiations. And I do want to just make a note that I received an email from the CSEA labor rep, and she said that this is pending CSEA membership approval. They haven't voted on these items yet, but we can go ahead. The board can go ahead and accept these.
Okay. Thank you, Mia. All right. Any questions or comments from the public? All right. Any questions or comments from the board? All right. We will go ahead and vote. So Lori.
Aye.
And Julie.
Aye.
And Jeannie Fernandez.
Aye.
And Angie.
Aye.
And Kelly, aye. All right, thank you. So now we will have consideration of approval of district's initial proposals for successor contract negotiations with California School Employees Association.
So are you looking for a motion?
Yes, start the motion. Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Angie. And a second.
I'll second.
All right, thanks, Lori. All right, Mia.
Okay, so these are the district's openers for negotiations, and we are proposing to open Article 1, which is introductory provisions, Article 5, which is health and welfare benefits, Article 6 is hours, Article 9 is leave, Article 12 is transfers, Article 14 is layoffs and re-employment, Article 18 is contracting out, Article 19, evaluation procedures, Article 20, disciplinary action procedures, Article 24, contract terms, and we'd like to also look at the appendices that we have in the CSEA contract.
Great, thank you. So any comments or questions from the community? From the board? All right, Lori, we'll go ahead and go. Thank you. Julie?
Aye.
Jeannie Fernandez?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
And Kelly, aye. Now, our next item is consideration of West Sonoma County Union High School District COVID-19 prevention program. So can I get a motion to approve the plan?
So moved.
Thanks, Julie. And a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Lori. All right, Mia.
Okay, so over the winter break, we received notification that we are required to put in place an emergency Cal OSHA plan. And so we started working on this right after the winter break, and we were able to use a template that is from Document Tracking Services and then just upload our particular information that we needed to for our district. This plan that's in place is for staff that is actually coming to work. Anybody that's working from home, it doesn't apply. And Diane did send me some typos, so I fixed those this afternoon. So thank you for that. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on this plan, but it will be posted on our district website.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mia, and thanks, Diane. All right, go ahead to the community to see if there's any additional comments or questions. All right, and how about from the board? Okay, well, thank you, Mia, for putting this together and presenting it. Lori, why don't we go ahead with your vote?
Aye.
Thank you. And Julie? You're muted, Julie. We saw you. Yeah. Lip eye.
Aye. I'll just go like that.
Yeah. Jeannie Fernandez.
Aye.
Angie Lewis. Angie.
Aye.
And Kelly. Aye. All right. Well, that concludes all of our discussion and action items for this evening. Under our future agenda items, our next board meeting is February 10th. We will also have a single plan for student achievement presented on February 10th. Any other items any board members would like to be considered? All right. Well, with that, we can adjourn.